Hi, everybody. I'm Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. I'm so happy to be back and relax after a nice vacation. And I'm starting off this week with a bang. And this is literal. If you haven't been paying attention, the Vikings will be hosting the 2028 NFL Draft. And we have one of the masterminds behind making that happen, Wendy Blackshaw, who is the president and CEO of Minnesota Sports and Events, who has done almost everything from soup to nuts. If it's a women's sporting event here, if it's a big men's sporting events that are coming on, and now the NFL draft, we're going to talk to Wendy and see how she and her crew pulled it off coming up. Well, we are welcoming in Wendy Blackshaw. And Wendy, you have huge news to really brag about, if I can say that Minnesota Sports and Events hosting the NFL Draft for the first time ever here in Minnesota. I know that you have been working so hard on this with your staff and putting everything into it, your hearts, all of that, your blood, sweat, and tears, if you will. Congratulations to you on getting the nod. How are you?
Well, I'm sort of still pinching myself, I have to admit, but I'm doing great. It was so exciting to get that news. We have been working on it actually since 2020, the first time we went to the NFL and started to present Minnesota as a possible host for the draft. So this has been a long time in coming, and we could not be more thrilled. It's exciting.
That's amazing. I think people just think, oh, you put the bid in a couple years earlier, but let's talk about all that behind the scenes work. I mean, you were one of the people that helped pull off everything for the Super Bowl. It was Super Bowl Live when they hosted it here and brought in millions of dollars. And so kudos to you on that. And then you helped form Minnesota Sports and Events in 2020.
Right.
So everything that you have done since then, the men and women's Big Ten basketball, you also had the Olympic trials for gymnastics, the women's Frozen Four, you name it. I was just looking at Special Olympics coming up in 2026. Just everything that you guys have worked so hard since 2020, just not even 6 full years,
Right.
to be able to, out of the jump, plant the flag that you want the NFL draft with all these other events going on. That's no small undertaking. How did you remain sane? And what were maybe the first things that you had to do for that?
Well, great question, and I'm so excited to talk about it because it's been a journey.
Yeah.
Let me just say that, and there are a number of reasons for that I'm sure we'll talk about. You know, the draft, as you know better than anyone, has come from, just something that no one paid attention to truly an event that the NFL has really planted their flag. It's become quite an adventure. I've been the last 3 years, and this is, first of all, it's free and open to the public. So this is a lot different than the Super Bowl. This isn't, corporate people paying a lot of money for a ticket. This is free. So 500, 600,000. Pittsburgh actually claimed 805,000 people who show up. And, these are the people who paint their faces, half purple, half white. They're the big fans, but it's families. It's so much more inclusive, and everything is free. It's not just the draft, but it's the NFL draft experience. It's all the things that the local organizing committee does. And so we started to really talk with the NFL about it again back in 2020, saying, we just had the Super Bowl. We know that. We know they like to move things around. But we felt like Minnesota was such a strong contingent of Vikings fans, as well as sort of being in the middle of the country. So we'll attract people from a lot of different states, if not other countries. We just felt like we would do an amazing job on this. One of the things that we have been really successful at doing is there's the event, but then there's all of the events outside the event. And we have done a great job on that. So we are excited to raise the bar even a little bit higher and put on the best draft ever.
You know what I really love, and you mentioned, when the Super Bowl was here, and that's when you started, staking your claim. I have covered 5 Super Bowls, including the one that was here, and I still hear from people around the league when I travel and cover different games that Minnesota was one of the, if not the, and many people said, out of all the Super Bowls I've ever gone, I've been to 30 of them. These are people that work inside the NFL, that Minnesota was the best run Super Bowl ever, and that is a feather in your cap, and I think that made the league stand up and take notice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I actually think it might have been the commissioner who said, "We know and trust Minnesota because of Super Bowl 52, and we
Mhm.
know that when they say this is what we're going to do, that's what they do." And so we felt like we were up against one other city, a city that I think was a little bit less proven than we are.
Mhm.
And they likely, I would imagine, be getting it in the next few years. But I think the fact that Minnesota really, we delivered on the Super Bowl. And again, it wasn't just, the Super Bowl itself. It was all of the community initiatives, everything that we did, literally starting with 1 year out. And we'll do that same thing. We'll start celebrating 1 year out. I think the NFL felt really confident, like, okay, they can do this, and we're going to bring it to Minnesota.
I love that because it's true. And not only do you follow through on your promises, y every event, I should say, that surrounds it, that no matter what you do, whether it's a Frozen Four, a Final Four, the gymnastics, everything that surrounds it is so well done, and
Yeah.
it can prove that A, you and your team have a passion for it, but B, you know how to do it and how to pull it off, and everyone is safe. The participation numbers are huge.
Yeah.
You're a well-oiled machine at this point, aren't you?
Well, we're fortunate we've got such a great team, and many of them did work on Super Bowl, so that was
Mhm.
sort of our testing ground. And
Mhm.
I think every event that we do, we learn a little bit and take that information on to the next. We love this idea of you don't have to go to the game or the event or the gymnastics match in order to participate and be part of. And,
Mhm.
so during gymnastics trials, there was the trials inside Target Center, but we had events outside Target Center. We had Promenade du Nord celebrating the Paris Olympics up and down Nicollet Mall. We had a ton of events, and that is kind of what we do really well. World
Mhm.
Juniors that we just hosted in December and January.
Right.
Again, we had the Fan Festival, the Bold North Breakaway outside in Rice Park, inside in River Center. So even if you didn't have a ticket, mom, bring the kids, come on down. There's tons of stuff to do. And we do that increases that economic impact that we talk a lot about
Mhm.
by so much, because you don't have to have a ticket to come down and have a great time. And it will be that same way for draft, except that there are no tickets. So you can
Right.
come down and participate in all these amazing events. So we're really excited.
And when you talk about economic impact, I remember being on the calls, and the average can vary from city to city, but we're talking about $200 million thereabouts, aren't we?
Yes, yes. Great point. So we had the University of Minnesota do an economic impact study, a preliminary one, just to look at kind of where we might fall. And they took into account past drafts, the population here, where we draw from, and 204 million was the economic impact. And that is significant. I mean, the only other events that draw that much, obviously Super Bowl does, probably men's Final Four,
Mhm.
and maybe WrestleMania, believe it or not. But otherwise, it is one of the key events that cities want, because people come, they stay in hotels, they eat in restaurants, they spend money, and that's what we love.
And it's gonna be nicer weather. I mean, if people came and spent money for the Super Bowl, they're gonna love it here. They may not
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because people who aren't familiar with Minnesota think that it's cold all year round.
Mhm.
I'm sure you hear that all the time. And
Yep.
we are trying to explain it's not going to be 13 below on draft day. I mean, maybe fluky, it might, but I don't think it will. I don't think it will. It could snow or it could be 80. I mean, that time of year, who knows? But it's going to be fantastic. Green Bay did it last year, not this past year, but
Yep,
in
the year before.
25. And, they have a similar climate to ours, and it was incredible. I mean,
Mhm.
nobody cares if it rains. Nobody cares. It is just partying and celebrating football and celebrating your team. And so we know that we are going to get a lot of people. It will be a lot of Vikings fans. I always laugh because I had been to Las Vegas, and then in Green Bay. Las Vegas, you saw a lot of different jerseys. I mean, there were a lot of, Las Vegas jerseys, but for the most part, there were a lot of different teams. Green Bay, it was literally 99% Green Bay Packer fans. We
Wow.
know there'll be a lot of Vikings fans, but we have an international airport here, which is a huge benefit because we know people fly in and they'll come. And so we're looking forward to welcoming people from all over the country.
Well, I just got back from Paris and there was an Adam Thielen jersey on sale at one of the brocants I was around, like, and
Oh,
I, like, took a video of it and zoomed in. Number 19, Adam Thielen, and, like, some guy walked by and goes, "Oh, I love that. I love the Vikings." And I was like, "This is incredible." And so when I was over in Dublin, it's the same thing, like,
oh, for
you're
sure.
talking about that international they have this hunger for the games, and so if there is a Vikings fan that wants to come here and experience it, especially with it's free, I mean, you gotta pay for a hotel and a flight, but, you're not spending thousands of dollars on a
Right.
Super Bowl ticket. You just
Right.
never know what you're gonna get.
Right. Well, the NFL's done a great job of really expanding into the international market. As a matter of fact, the
Mhm.
Vikings are playing in Mexico City this coming season. They've done a really amazing job to create that fan engagement, not just here in the United States, but all
Mhm.
over the world. And that's what is really interesting because we do anticipate there are going to be Vikings fans who fly in and whatever fans who
Yeah.
fly in from other countries who are just really excited about being here. The other thing about this draft, and I really appreciate the NFL. Having worked with them in Super Bowl, they're great to work with. But one of the reasons that they also picked 2028 was because of what we have been through in the past, 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And that is not always the case with other leagues or other national governing bodies. Some might have a sense to shy away a little bit. And the NFL was like, hey, Minnesota has been through a lot. Let's bring the draft so that we can give these businesses, who many of whom are going to still be struggling to come back, all of this great exposure and bringing all of these people here. And I really appreciated that the NFL was thinking along those lines.
Well, I just got chills. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that
Yeah.
that's one thing that was important to them.
Yes, yes, yeah, which
Wow.
is which is incredible because you think of the big NFL, but they're really good people who work there.
Mhm.
And it was funny in Orlando at the announcement. So Nashville announced that they were going to be getting the Super Bowl, and we announced that we were going to be getting the draft. And you would have thought we were getting the Super Bowl and they were getting the draft. We had so many people. Even the NFL was so excited. Nashville was like, and we're getting the Super Bowl. Yay. And then it's like Minnesota. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it was big time excitement. We had a big contingent down there, and it was a really wonderful moment and a wonderful moment for Minnesota sports and events because, as we've talked about, we've been trying to get this here since 2020. So this is our year.
That makes me feel good. I was in, one of the lines for not my trip recently, but, another trip before that, and, you start chit-chatting with people, and they're like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Well, I live in Minneapolis," and they stop and they say, "We're with you."
Oh, see,
So it's
right,
that same feeling,
right,
"We're with
right.
you."
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
they thank us, like,
Yes.
"Thank you."
Yes,
So,
exactly, exactly. Not very many citizens of a community would
uh,
stand outside in 45-degree below weather, and so I think that really had an impact on people all over the world, and, it will be 2 years past that, but I think it has had just who we are as a community has had a lasting effect on how people view us. And, the fact that this community came together, it impacted being able to get the draft, and I think it will impact people wanting to come here and experience it.
Oh, that's awesome. This is a perfect time. We're going to hit the pause button. We're going to take a quick break because you know about sponsors, Wendy. We got to feed the ducks, so to speak.
Yep.
But when I come back, there's so much more I want to talk to you about. Let's talk about some of the venues, and you guys are the hosts, and of course supported from the Vikings.
Mhm.
But I also want to talk about how you guys really have this emphasis on supporting women, which is so important to me. So a lot more to talk with Wendy Blackshaw when we come back. Don't go away.
Here is where it all starts. Here's where pages are turned and new legends are written. Here's where kids become lifelong fans and lifelong fans become kids. Here's where sunsets last longer, happy hour tastes better, and summer hits its stride. And when all of Twins territory stands together and believes hard enough, well, there's no place like here. Get your tickets at twins.com.
You've heard me talk about Lucy before, and there's a reason my friends keep bringing it up. A bunch of them have made the switch to Lucy, and now they're calling it a top-notch lip pillow. Their words, not mine. They say it's one of the best pouches on the market. The favorite seems to be Lucy Breakers. Each pouch has a crackable flavor capsule that gives you long-lasting, on-demand flavor that doesn't dry out. With flavors like mint, apple cider, and mango, you can find the one that fits you the best. Lucy has become the favorite pouch for a lot of my buddies, and it could be yours too. Right now, you can get 20% off your first order when you buy online at lucy.co/dawn with the promo code DAWN, D-A-W-N. That's lucy.co/dawn, promo code DAWN. And if you don't want to wait, use the store locator to find where you can pick up Lucy near you. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of a legal age, and every customer is age verified. Warning, this product does contain nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical.
The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, so I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
We're rejoined by Wendy Blackshaw, the president and CEO of Minnesota Sports and Events, recently, of course, awarded the 2028 NFL Draft. And Wendy, we were talking earlier about, the different venues that will be used. Now, US Bank Stadium, of course, will maybe be an anchor, but it's everywhere else. Your committee is the commission that was only formed in 2020 has done amazing work, but you are the hosts.
Right.
Of course, supported by the Vikings.
Right.
They're going to be in it heavily. But what are the other venues? Obviously, it's not just going to be US Bank Stadium.
Right. So one of the things the NFL really likes about our footprint, and they were very familiar with it because of the Super Bowl, is that urban kind of compact, walkable footprint. So we know that there are going to be events taking place all over downtown. So probably the convention center, perhaps down at the riverfront, maybe on Nicollet Mall. And the reason I say maybe is because when you're dealing with the NFL and planning, we get to it when the NFL gets to it. So right now we know it's US Bank Stadium. We do not know the footprint where the stage is going to be. So potentially it could be in front of the Legacy Gates, or the draft stage could be on the other end, at the end of the Commons, like on the west side. Both have benefits. And then we even submitted a footprint where the stage was indoors. That probably won't happen, but the NFL likes to look at every possible scenario. And then, they have a draft experience that probably will have a number of different locations around downtown. And then we, the local organizing committee that MNSC is heading up, we will probably have a local kind of fan festival. But we need to find out where the NFL is going to plant themselves before we make the final determination where we're going to be. But it will be all over downtown. And our thought is kind of having sort of these pods also popping up around downtown. So, food trucks in some place, activations happening on Hennepin, maybe down at the Spoon and Cherry. Like, I imagine there'll be a lot of places where people can go. And we want people to experience all of Minneapolis because obviously we have so much when it comes to entertainment, dining, the arts, all of those things. And we're excited for people to get the taste of Minneapolis.
And literally, I think National Geographic just named it one of the best foodie cities in the world. I think everyone's going to figure that out as well. They're going to be well-fed and well-entertained.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Is there anything that you and your crew need to still work on? Anything that the community can help with? Are there any needs that need to be met still?
So great question. So the number one issue that we're facing is fundraising right now. And we have had an amazing outreach from the corporate community. Minnesota Sports and Events is unlike any other sports commission of our size, where we do not have a long-term ongoing funding source. And so a little bit about this, Dawn. We've been at the legislature for 5 years trying to get some sort of funding source. And we've gotten some one-time appropriations for various events, but we do not yet have that funding source that kind of keeps us going. And so probably the main thing we are going to be doing over the next 6 to 9 months is really fundraising for this event, because a lot of people think, well, it's the NFL, they should pay for it. That's not the formula. The city that hosts the event pays for all the local costs itself. So public safety, permitting, the venue, all of those expenses that truly do give back to the community. Hotels, you are giving people jobs. You are doing a lot in terms of, giving people work but all that has to be paid for by the local community. And unlike a city like Indianapolis, they have a ton of money. And we lose out on events all the time to Indianapolis simply because we do not have the funding. Recently, we have had to press pause on any bids past the NFL draft until we figure that out, because we have somehow, some way figured out a way to do it up until this point. And I don't even know how.
How?
I don't know how.
Sheer will and determination.
Yeah, exactly. But, there comes a point where we have to have some kind of public-private partnership. We'll always have corporate partners, but these events, the costs run fairly high, and we need that mechanism, especially because we are giving money back to the state in terms of money into the tax coffers, back to the city, money into the city tax coffers. And so by the time draft is done, we will have brought in close to 800, 900 million in economic impact with no funding. And we just can't continue on like that into infinity.
So how can people in the community help? Like, if someone's listening to this and they said, well, I want to do my part, where can they reach out and what can they do?
Call your legislator. Seriously. Okay. I think that people think that these things just happen, and that isn't the case, that they do have to be funded. And again, right now, Minnesota, because we have done a great job on a lot of these events, we are a premier host city. And there are a lot of events that want to come here. But, the second question is, how are you going to pay for it? And without a succinct, clearly defined answer, we we lose events. We've lost the 2028 gymnastics trials, despite the fact that we did an incredible job. I mean, to the point where the USOPC was like, this is how every single trial should be. But we didn't have the money to pay for the 2028 trial, so it went to Louisville. We lost Big Ten volleyball tournament, which would have been Thanksgiving of this year, a time when our community could have really needed it. But again, we don't have the money to pay for it, so we have to pull out of the bid process. So it's really call your legislators and tell them that these are important to our community. It's important to the businesses. It's important to, the community at large. The other thing that we do is we use these events as platforms. And over the course of the last 5 to 6 years, we have given back millions in touch points to families and youth all over Minnesota. During World Juniors, we had a program called Assist 26, and every single week leading up to World Juniors, starting a year out, we did some sort of community initiative, whether that was giving money to Mosaic Hockey so that they could use it for their program, whether it was youth clinics in Duluth, whether it was, coaches clinics in Mankato. So the community initiative part of this is almost important to us as getting people in the stands, because these are great platforms to use to really help out our community in areas that they really need it. And draft is no exception. Draft, the NFL really wants you to do a lot of community impact events, and we're already starting to plan that. So that would be the other thing I would say, is that if you work for a nonprofit, or if you know of a nonprofit that has a need, reach out and let us know, because we are right now in the planning process for all of that.
Oh, that's so important. So if anyone's listening and they want to reach out, and you have a charity and you want to do that, please reach out to Wendy and Minnesota Sports and Events. They're all amazing. But like you said, call your legislators and figure out how they can bring a bill to the floor. I'm guessing that's the next step for it, right, Wendy?
Well, we did have a bill, and unfortunately it did not pass. So we will probably next year go back and have another bill. And we had bipartisan support, but in the end, there were literally a couple people who just do not believe that these sorts of events can positively impact the community. And so it didn't pass. And, it's their constituents that are going to make the difference in terms of saying, we really want these kinds of events here in Minnesota, because otherwise we don't have those events in Minnesota.
Right.
That's
Well,
just the reality.
I think 200 million can really be a good thing for the city and the state.
Right. Exactly.
Well, Wendy, before I let you go, I really want to talk about, I think years ago, you had mentioned it to me, and I have seen anything that you say, you always back up with action. And I remember it was at one event, I think at Mall of America, I think it might have been basketball Pop-A-Shot or something, and just ahead of the women's Final Four. And you said, I really want Minnesota to become a destination for women's sports.
Absolutely.
I think our women's sports teams, college, professional, whether it's the Aurora all the way up to, the Lynx and the Frost. I want Minnesota to be known and a place for women's sports. And you have put your money where your mouth is. Your crew has done that. Every single person that works with you is fully invested in that. And first, I want to give you your flowers on that, because you said it and you backed it up. But second of all, how important and meaningful has that been for you and the people you work with over there to see that come to fruition?
Well, and it's a constant ongoing journey from that standpoint. We have done, Big Ten women's 2 years in a row. We did gymnastics, which also has men's, but obviously is much more known for women's gymnastics, that part of it. And even when we are hosting a men's event, we will do community initiatives or events that do focus on women. So we've got SummerSlam coming up in August, a WWE event, lots of really intense fans. But we're doing a women's wrestling event that because there's a lot of women's wrestling popping up, especially in high schools and colleges. And so we're doing a panel the night before to really emphasize and highlight that this is a growing sport for women. During World Juniors, we did a ton of girls hockey initiatives. So again, even when it's a male sporting event, we will find that connection to women and really focus on that because it is so important. There's some events that are coming up in the future that we're bidding on. One is we're bidding again on women's volleyball in a couple years. It's a ways out, and it will be the bids aren't due till after session. So hopefully the pause on our bids will be off and we will be able to successfully bid on that. 12 teams coming in from the Big Ten from all over the country. Volleyball's huge here. We're a perfect market for it. We will likely look at NCAA Women's Final Four again. We hosted in 22. We did an amazing job, and we'd love to bring that back. And then, of course, the big one is FIFA Women's World Cup. And we have already been named a preferred site for that. But again, that is a funding issue because that is an expensive event from the standpoint of there's lots of security, there's a lot of infrastructure that is required. And so in order to host that, we've got to figure out this funding mechanism because we want it. And to have one of the FIFA Women's World Cup events here would be incredible.
Oh, well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed because some cities have that mechanism, and to be such a great area to host events and to have a history that you and Minnesota Sports and Events have in terms of successfully pulling them off and doing such a shining example of a job in doing so. I'm hoping that hurdle is cleared soon because your work is so important. It's got to be, absolutely.
It's got to be. And I think it will. We just keep on plugging away. We all love what we do. It's interesting because people ask me a lot, like, are you guys all sports fans? And not everyone who works here is necessarily a huge sports fan, but what they are is they love this state. And that is the key factor. It's what we are giving back to this wonderful place that we call home. That's why we do this job, and that's why we love it, and we want to be able to continue.
Well, I also want to give you your personal congratulations, too, as being one of, I would say, the most impressive women leaders in Minnesota. It's true, whether like your days at Mall of America, the Sun Country, and then, of course, being, the senior VP to pull off all the Super Bowl host committee stuff. And now all this with Minnesota Sports and Events. You are always working. You are always so kind, and you're always such a tenacious leader, and you bring so much money into whatever fundraising you're doing. And that's because you're a force. And I'm just really proud that you're such a great example for women here in Minnesota and the rest of the country, quite frankly. So
that is so wonderful and so sweet of you. And I feel the same way about you. I'll tell you, and I'm sure you have this too, as women, I think sometimes we have that, like, am I doing this right? That I swear to God, sometimes men, I don't know, but I think it also makes us really good at our jobs. And I laugh when you said you work all the time because my husband would completely agree with that. But it's not, and you're like this too. It's not a job. This is a lifestyle.
Exactly.
This is a passion that I believe in. And I feel so lucky. I feel so fortunate that this is what I get to do.
Oh, well, Wendy, I'm wishing you the best of luck. I know this is the one thing on my bucket list for the NFL. It's the only thing I haven't covered in person. So it's a personal, I've done Super Bowls, NFC championship games, unfortunately, not in the Vikings' favor, but I've covered everything except for a draft in person. I've obviously covered the draft parties and the Viking side of it, but to be in person, I'm really looking forward to it. So It's going to be huge, not only for Minneapolis, but the whole state and for Vikings fans worldwide. And you and Minnesota Sports and Events and every single person affiliated should be so proud because this is a huge feather in the cap. And I just know that the funding's going to come to finish it off as well.
Well, thank you, Dawn. If you want to come with us next year to get a sneak preview, it's on the National Mall in DC. So,
oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. But I think you should come you have to preview it.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's coming here now. All right.
Yeah.
You're already putting a little feather in my cap.
There you go.
Take it, writing it down from my bosses.
There you
Field
go.
trip to.
That's
We
right.
did that when we had the handoff, remember, for Super Bowl? Yes. So,
Right.
I like the way you think.
There you go. There you go.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much. I know your time is valuable, and I so appreciate you coming on the podcast for something so important as of this. And congrats again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn.